Okay. Yeah. So you're saying that the Most High, I mean, what you're seeing in the world today are things that are reflective of basically, in layman's terms, karma. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Uh, so what? So for the rest of you, are there other things that you've been seeing in the world, on the news, in your neighborhoods, in your family, in your life, at work, um, that that indicates that something is taking place, and you recognize it from the scriptures that have been presented to you?
I think I see a shedding away of the old ways. Excuse me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Of the old ways in terms of people are starting to come more and more into the light, into the truth, and seeking it more. I had a friend who said that the numbers of the church is going down, meaning people are not going to the building to get understanding and truth. I see that, number one. I see number two, people are searching for something outside of what's normal that they've been taught, to seek something else so that they can get clarity. And I also think I see a lot of people that were in the world. I see them trying to make the transformation out of it, no matter what way they're going. But I see a lot of my friends who I spoke to in the beginning starting to come back to try to ask questions now that they were so against before. So that's what I'm seeing. And I'm also hearing people say there's something coming, but they can't explain it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, good. Anyone else? Did you guys see some of those same types of things going on, or something different? What are you seeing?
I see evil and wickedness is increasing greatly.
In what way?
People, well, as you and Latricia both were saying a little bit ago, karma is coming back biting big time. Some of the evil things that they're doing, they think they're getting away with it, but they're not. But yet, on the other hand, they still continue to do it.
Okay. Anything else? Or anyone else? So no one else has been seeing or going through anything this week to make them
We see
realize.
judgment. Judgment is taking place.
Hold on a second, I was talking.
Sorry.
Um, are you guys seeing or understanding things that have been taking place during this week that I mean, yeah, just that. Have you been seeing and understanding anything that has been going on in these last couple of weeks, let's just say?
As far as I am concerned, I have seen where, as far as my health is concerned, right? Literally, the doctors are telling me to stay away from the herbs, but they're literally trying to push me towards getting the medicines that you can make a profit off of. And I'm literally like pissed because I'm like, where if I sit there and take that particular medicine that they can get profit, or the farmer can get profit off of, is going to continue to destroy my liver. It's going to continue to destroy my organs. But when I'm sitting there telling them this, they don't care. They're still trying to prescribe me this medicine. When I'm telling them, okay, the herbs that the Most High created is better for me. And they're not caring. And that's all for rulership, power. So yes, I am definitely seeing. And that's from this week alone.
All right. So when you present information to them regarding alternative methods like herbs and other things that can improve your health, you're saying that they're rejecting those things, that there's no evidence of those things being able to assist your medical condition?
Yes.
Then it's time to change doctors.
This is all of the doctors that I'm going to that's in Saysworth.
Or
Mm.
so are you addressing those things through natural herbalist, or knowing what you know, do you go to herbalists that have a different perspective?
Yes.
All right. So, and they're telling you, are they telling you the same thing, or are they telling you something else?
Oh no, they are the ones that had let me know about the herbs or whatever, or put me on about the herbs. It's just the doctors that are not holistic. They're saying, well, basically they saying they don't see any money behind it. That's what I see, and they're saying just stop the herbs.
Well, you got your answer right there.
So, right, well, they're telling you to stop the herbs as though they're hurting you. Are
Yes.
they saying that the herbs are causing a medical condition within you? Are they finding evidence of that?
They're saying right now the herbs, they can't find any evidence that the herbs is helping me versus the medicine that they will make money off of. That's what they're saying.
Okay, let's
But
leave the
I'm
money.
telling them it is working.
Let's leave the money out of it. So for now, let's deal with the facts of the herbs and the synthetic drug. All right. So with the herbs, are they saying that the herbs, they're not seeing evidence that the herbs are helping you, right? That's what they're saying?
Yes.
And what are you feeling that the herbs are helping you medically?
Yes.
And you're telling them this information?
Yes, I am.
And they're going against that and saying that the synthetic drugs are, we can address these symptoms from the synthetic drugs.
Yes.
Okay. So, like Kathy just said, basically, there's your answer. So, yeah, when we know better, what do?
We do better.
Exactly.
However, they taken certain parts of the herb to create the synthetic medicines, quote unquote, that they pushing on people.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, so that's always the case. So
yeah.
they take, just like in your foods and all that stuff, and even the things on the labels, they'll put a little bit of something on the label to say that they have this in it. But yet they put all these other chemicals and things in it as well, that can disturb or disrupt your body, or the chemical compounds within your body. And we have to be careful, because all herbalists and every herb is not, sometimes what we think it is either. So we have to, one, not think that everything is perfect according to man. Let me put that out there first. Because whether it's an herbalist or whether it's a doctor from, in our medical industry, none of them know everybody's body, number one.
That's right.
Everybody wants to go to what they feel most comfortable with, and you should, because it is about your comfort level, and there's always a risk, and you're willing to take a specific risk for a specific reason, right? Would you agree or disagree?
I agree.
So some people are willing to take a risk for going with the herbs or herbalist versus going to synthetic drugs, right?
Right.
So you just make an informed decision based on what you know, and you go with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may be right, sometimes you may be wrong. Sometimes they may be right, sometimes they may be wrong.
Yeah. Well, they sit and they ask you the questions. Well, what's going on with you today? How you feeling? What's this? What's that? They gathering information just like how you would gather the same information in order to get treatment for whatever you need.
Well,
so
this is what I find.
They don't know.
Right. Well, and this is what I find, and I'll tell you, because, and I've told y'all before, I go in there and I do a lot of the questions. I ask them, and I give them a lot of information, but yet I need for them to answer questions for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in there with my list of questions, with my my research and everything that I've already done and what's going on with me. And I need for them to give me what they believe these things are. And then I have to make an informed decision based, not letting them dictate what, they can say all they want. Well, I'm going to write this prescription for you. Okay, you can write it all day long.
Yep.
And but it's my decision whether I want to take it or take certain risks, even with some of those drugs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when they write your prescription, or a lot of them you may have heard of, that have when your doctor writes those descriptions, typically they do not go through and tell you all of the things that it can disrupt within your body.
That's
Typically,
true.
they don't tell you that unless you start to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Facts. You gotta research it, and then you gotta tell them about it. Like
Exactly.
I tell them to run tests and all that. It gets tiresome.
Exactly. So this is where you have to take responsibility for your own body
Mm-hmm.
and letting them know what they're going to do for you. You're paying for a service, from them, and you have to hold them accountable. The doctors of today are not the doctors of the yesteryears. It has changed significantly, more and more for power, rulership, and money. So when we know that, we have to hold them accountable. And it still comes back to us regarding, what we're going to do with that information. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So know that that's where we are. Know that that's, they're going to do what they're going to do. Now it's up to you to make the, informed decisions of what you need to do for your body. And I'm like you, Latricia, and I believe, probably everybody on here has gone through this at some point. One, I'm not going to just take you, blindly from your words when I'm telling you certain things that you clearly haven't addressed, and you want to address symptoms without getting to root cause, without identifying root cause and all those things. What the medical industry will do very quickly is address your symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. And then they
Something is
prescribe you
bringing on your
medicine.
symptoms.
Yep.
And they don't want, and they know that, okay, they can give you all kinds of medication for pain and things that they can take all the pain away from you. Trust me. You may be halfway dead, but they can take the pain away.
Mm-hmm.
It's same thing, for all symptoms of different things. They address symptoms and typically not root causes. And the question to be asked is, what is causing this? Like for certain things, like I have issues with my knees, and especially with one knee. I know that inflammation is a big part of it, is a huge part of it. I realize that. I know that. So what's causing the inflammation? There's a lot of things that I eat that I need to stop eating. There's things that I can take that also addresses inflammation, like zinc and other things that help to bring down inflammation within your body. Inflammation causes a lot of things with pain, arthritis, and various other issues within your body.
Yeah.
Inflammation can lead to cancer.
Exactly. A lot of things can. But when we address that, okay, this is inflammation, I can tell by the swelling, I can tell by, all of these different factors, what can I take naturally to maybe address inflammation? One, change my dietary plan. Two, take some more zinc and some other things, herbs and supplements that can, help address inflammation, versus taking something synthetic, just to stop the pain of my knee. All right. So that's, making those informed decisions. We all have to be accountable for those things. And what has happened is, just like the pool pit, everybody looks at the minister to have all the answers when he typically has none or don't have the right answers. That's what people do when they go to the doctors, when they go to their lawyers, when they go everywhere else, instead of being accountable in and of themselves. So we have to take on that accountability and then hold them accountable, because once they know that you are knowledgeable and you're asking the right questions, then you'll start to get somewhere. Not to say that you're going to follow what they said, because sometimes they'll show you that I can't rely on the information that you provide. I mean, I've had doctors, tell me, okay, well, I'm gonna write a prescription. No, you're not, because I'm not asking you to, first of all. I mean, no, I'm serious. When it comes to certain things that, and my brother is even on medication now on certain things that I believe, and he even believes that he shouldn't be on. I'm like, well, then why are you on it?
Yeah.
If there's things that you can do to bring down your A1C and other thing, and then at the same time, you see this medication come across the screen with all kinds of problems and issues and what the pharmaceutical company is saying about it now or whatever. And now you got this warning, which I'm like, well, okay. What decision are you going to make? Are you going to still stay on it because they're telling you when you really don't even need to be because your numbers aren't that high and you can get it back down yourself? Why would you do that? Why would you make that type of decision? Nobody's
Because
forcing
they
you.
want a quick fix. They want a
Right.
quick fix.
Well, we believe. No, the problem is the belief.
That it offers a quick fix.
Not only the quick fix is the part of it, but you believe in your doctors more than anything else.
Correct.
They will have
No,
you
that's correct.
believing, just like the pulpit will have you believing Jesus Christ. Nobody forced your hand. All they got to do is tell you certain things, and you believe.
Yeah.
So that's why people don't study. That's why whether it's for their natural life or their spiritual life, someone can come before them, just like our transgressors have done, and tell you something else, and you will believe and follow that which they tell you. When you know for yourself, just like Latricia said, then you do better for yourself, which now sets you apart, right?
Come through.
So, all of that is, in this world that, being in this world, but not of it. So I know that the world believes in these doctors and are paying them, $1 million a year and all of this. But guess what? Sometimes that doctor can't do anything for me. And I'm not speaking ill about doctors. I'm not. I'm speaking ill about, or I'm speaking about what's best for us, what's best for my specific needs, and it can't be met a lot of times when I'm dealing with this system that is against me.
Thanks.
So sometimes people get that confused that, okay, all doctors are bad. No, that is not the case whatsoever. And I don't ever want it to be presented that way, because there is a use for doctors. But we have to make sure that they know certain things about, us individually, and that we're set apart. I'm going to let you know how set apart I am by that which I speak.
And we're usually met with the most resistance from them.
That's fine too. That's the way that's who we are.
Exactly. Because my physician, when I brought it to her attention that I wanted the blood work on a series of tests done, she was like, sheesh, who's going to order all of that? I was like, all you have to do is write it.
Well, see, that's like, laziness.
No, she was like, no, you could get one of the other physicians to write that.
They want lab rats. That's what I see. They want lab rats.
They do.
And if they could test you, if they can test that drug on you, they're gonna test it.
Well, that's what they're doing anyway.
Oh yeah.
And that's exactly how it works with these religious institutions. It's like the Jehovah's Witnesses. When they knock on your door and they see that you are knowledgeable about the scriptures and their false doctrine does not work on you, they're never coming back to your door. And some doctors take that approach, and other leaders that represent all forms of government, when they see that you are a person that's knowledgeable, that many of the masses don't see, you become a target or threat.
Yep.
Right. So those are the same things, and I've conveyed this many times before as well. In other aspects of our life, you know, at the workplace, we deal with the same thing. One, you're set apart. If you are knowledgeable and do your job and know your job well, a lot of times you become a threat to those that don't know their job well, and those that may articulate certain things, but they have no context, understanding, nor the execution to make certain things happen the way that it should. But people like to follow, just like the politicians and everything else, or those in the pulpit. It sounds good, may sound good in theory, or it just sounds good because I like the way you look, or because of your skin color, or because of whatever other reason. But it may be the very bad thing that just does not work for you. But you're not willing to address those things because you're caught up in everything else. You're caught up a lot of times because everyone else is following them. They're the family doctor. You know, several thousands of people work for this company or organization, and they're following straight through the broad and wide gate, and you're expected to do the same thing without resistance. And I'm not saying by any means that you go in there and start a war. There's a way to handle these matters. And again, those are the fruits of the spirit of the Most High. The patience, the long suffering. It doesn't mean that you negate the truth. And this is the spiritual war that we're dealing with, that also trickles over or is in the natural that we live in, which is why the Most High has us here, the reason why we're here. We can see it when it comes down to our natural body. You know, when you're in pain, you want the pain to stop. But you couldn't see it when it was just in your spirit, and how corrupt your spirit was, and how you followed after graven, other images and idols when you went against them in times past. He's showing you today. I'm going to show you. I'm going to put you in this body and let you suffer and see who I am and understand certain things for yourself. Your spirit is going to allow you to either see me or not, based on who you were, due to your reputation, which precedes you.
Oh yeah, I apologize to the Most High all the time for being hard-headed, because that's what I think it is. I promise you. You being hard-headed, not listening to him.
Exactly.
Exactly. And not only that, because then someone may question or say, so are you saying everybody with the health condition, that's why no, that's not what I'm saying at all.
I was just saying from my viewpoint. I'm not saying it.
Exactly. No, I get it. But I'm telling you how people will address it, and you guys know, because people are going to come at you with all of these things because they're just addressing the natural realm and the natural things that are happening to them. Just like we talk about with, the diaspora and slave trade and things that was the natural side of things. Now, what was the spiritual, context and connotation behind what really transpired there? That's what you really need to know. Our people, or Judah, can definitely, understand when those chains went around your neck and around your feet and around your wrists, and when the whip went across your back and you were lynched hanging from a tree. You understand that.
Damn. Ooh.
But what you don't understand is that when I came to you and told you these things so that you don't have to go through that, you went and followed just the opposite of what I told you to do. So I'm going to let the world have its way with you, because since you enjoy the world, go ahead and let this world have its way with you. And this is the message that, when we are conveying this, especially to the house of Judah and others that are talking about Deuteronomy 28, because it is real. But what did you gain from it? Because if you're still following the ways of this world after you just came out of all of that, and you don't see and understand things differently, that's a problem. And if you're still following the Gentile path, that's a problem.
I want to ask a question, right?
Huh?
I want to ask a question. That is spirituality coming into the carnal world, into the reality.
Exactly. So, we just have to be mindful of all of these things and the impacts of this information from a spiritual perspective and the manifestation thereof. Again, most people see what they want to see, first of all. That's what they see. What you see is what you get, the WYSIWYG. They see what they want to see.
Okay. Oh, okay. Deuteronomy 28, that scared me. I'm telling you, Deuteronomy 28, I don't even know the complete spiritual context of it, but when I was reading it, it scared me. And literally, I was reading it, and I was like, well, the Most High is telling us what he'll do if you don't get in line.
What's going to scare you more? And, and I've talked to Quest about this, before a lot. Well, you guys know I've been all over the world, number one. And in, whether it's the Cape Coast in Ghana and during the slave trade where things happen, seeing and going down into that experience, like other people will tell you, is life-changing. Same thing, on the east side of Africa and the slave trade, because most people really don't hear what happened from the east side of Africa regarding the slave trade and things with apartheid in South Africa. Most people don't know. People are now learning and going and seeing for themselves some of those things. But when you see and understand and you stand in, like I did in South Africa, standing in the prison cell of where Nelson Mandela was and what he had to look at, and what the rest of them had to look out, from Robben Island. That's an experience in itself. Just like in Alcatraz, I've been to Alcatraz here. Understanding what the prisoners really saw looking out at the bay across and seeing San Francisco and Oakland and all of that. It looks beautiful from Alcatraz. You can't get to it. You're just looking at beauty. You're suffering on Alcatraz in an island in a cell. While you're talking.
Crazy.
Huh?
Damn. I said, nah, that's crazy.
But it's even worse from
From
in
a
the
spiritual.
Well, no, I mean it's worse from even from a natural perspective, from the west coast of Africa and Ghana and Togo. Like I was in Togo earlier this year. Certain things, the slave house there, understanding and seeing that experience, what those that came before us, what they suffered, and had to go through, all for Yahuah's plan of salvation and for us to gain understanding of what transpired before that, what led to all of those things. It's
exactly.
not, and it's, when we see that in the natural. For us, we should be able to identify in the spirit. Had someone not transgressed, and then that should lead to the question of who transgressed and why, then that group of people would not have had to suffer and go through the things that they've been going through. So while people of the house of Yahudah or Judah wants reparations and all of that kind of stuff, they still haven't identified your people, those that came before you, your ancestors, your forefathers sent you down that path. That's what you have to understand. And until you understand that, there's going to be an issue within your spirit. So these are the things that we have to think about and address when these matters come up. Again, most people can identify these matters, from a physical or natural perspective, but what's the spirit that drove it? Just like what Latricia was saying about the medical field or whatever, she immediately went to power, rulership, and money, because you're telling me you want to write this prescription for this pharmaceutical company so that all of y'all can get a piece of money. That's really what you want to do. That's what you're telling me. But is this the best thing for my body? No. From what I see and understand, no, I don't believe that. But when you're set apart and don't follow that path, and you have every right to, you do that which is good for you. Some people some people would rather die naturally from the things that are going on in our natural body, because our natural body is going to die, versus putting, something that they're just totally against in it. I get it. You have to do what's best for you, and understanding those things. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the bigger part is really just identifying the spirit that comes before you, who we can trust, who we can't trust, and why. Again, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in our household, whether it's in our governments, all of those, that makes the world of difference. And like I tell people, and I've been telling people for decades, when someone loves you, they have nothing to benefit from it. That's how you can determine if they love you or not. There's no benefit for them. The benefit is all yours. And the Most High operates the same way.
The benefit should be nothing but love in itself.
Yeah.
The benefit comes back to you through the love that he's created for you. When you can identify who love is, and the scriptures tells us who love is, then that benefit is to you. That's why he loves those that love him.
Exactly.
In his righteousness. So sometimes we don't love ourselves, and we pay the price for not even loving ourselves. That's why we talk to people and treat people the way that we do. And I see this all the time, and I tell you all about it. People I know, even right here in this house. Because you don't love yourself, and it shows. But the people that don't love themselves want everybody else to bow down to them. That's who Satan is. That's how Satan operates. And he's still miserable.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to be so long-winded on that, but yeah, when we see these things in this world that impact us, and we know better, do we do better? There was there's always been a remnant that has. There was a whole generation or generations before us that stood fast in the truth, that did not fall prey to the foolishness. This is something else, and I'll share this again. Everything that looks good, trust me, isn't good at all. I talk to people all over this world, and everybody wants to come to these nasty divided snakes. And I always have to tell them, it is not what it appears to be. You see it from a perspective of the riches and the money and this, that, and the other, and it's an opportunity for you. I get it. I get that it appears to be that way, but there are people that see that, and I talk to some of them as well, that never want to come here because they see the evils of what it is that most people here don't see. They see how it's impacted even their countries and their villages and things of that nature. Well, typically not the villages, because the villages are set apart. The governments don't have anything to do with it. So that shows you the set apartness of people is your belief in righteousness and unrighteousness, or something that's against what you understand or believe. I'm sure a lot of you are seeing now, whether it's on social media or some other media form, there's a lot of content out there about these pharmaceutical companies and drugs, and all of a sudden, all of these different things, natural remedies have been found for you to have this, and if you're experiencing this, there's a natural remedy found in this part of Asia or whatever that can cure your issue. Well, guess what? It's always been there.
Mhm.
Why are you just identifying that now? Why is it that our government isn't saying that? And you have people even coming out of the medical industry and pharmaceutical companies and governments that, tell you some of the evils that have happened behind the scene. Now, what are you going to do about that? When you know better, you try to do better, right?
Mhm.
So who can make war with the beast? Only Yahuah can deal with this, as he has in times past, for it all to come tumbling down. But in the meantime, our bodies have suffered. They've been doing a lot of things in our foods, which are horrible here. I don't care how organic they say it is. A lot of times it's not.
Right.
And it still has pesticides and other garbage on it.
Mhm.
And I can tell you again, I've been all over, and the fruits that are in different parts of the world are totally different than the fruits or whatever that's here. We believe that everything that looks a certain way is good. Oh, that apple looks good because it's all shiny and this, that, and the other, sitting up in Publix or whatever grocery store you're in. What's making it so shiny? What's making it look like that? That's not how apple looks on the tree.
Mhm.
And when you experience these fruits in its natural form out in the wild, it is totally different than this garbage that we get here in these divided snakes.
Yep.
And here we are conditioned to think that if somebody plucks a peach or apple off a tree and just eat it, that it's nasty. Mm-mm. That ain't nasty. That ain't where the nastiness is. The
And the best way
nastiness,
to eat it off the tree.
huh?
I said that's the best way to eat it off the tree.
Exactly.
Right.
But they would say, "Oh, well, you need to wash that." Yeah, okay, you can rinse it off, but half the time you rinse it off in this crazy water that's probably not good for you either.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, you can.
exactly.
And I'm not saying just eat it. You can wipe it off. You can rinse it off or whatever. But my point is that most people are conditioned to thinking that how great it looks. This is what marketing is all about, and especially in certain stores, that's why they have things look a certain way, because it entices you to buy it.
They put that car wax on the fruit.
On, on
Right.
everything, the way that things are positioned, it's for a purpose. I've learned this because I've done it before, and when I had to sell certain things,
Mm-hmm.
it
He
is
said,
it's a marketing tactic. I'm sorry.
he said they put car wax.
No,
Yeah,
Car
they
wax.
put that. Yeah, it's called
they
canupa wax. They put that in mixture that they coat them fruits that Zeke talking about. They make them look real shiny because they're more marketable,
Mhm.
and it
Wow.
preserves them in a sense. But you may be eating an apple that's 2 years old.
Mm.
Well, so this is how the society is here, and I don't mean to take up this much time on this, but it is important. Um, we are conditioned to think that if we can preserve it for for longer periods of time, that it's good. No, it's not.
Exactly.
The Most High has given us all these things to eat and utilize now, not to hold on to. But here, just like in this crazy house, we have, and it's only right now 3 of us in here. We have 3 refrigerators, or 2 full refrigerators with freezers and another full freezer. It's standalone freezer. Who needs all that? Whereas in Europe, most of the time, people will shop or get what they need either daily or every other day, and they cook it, eat it right then.
Mhm.
Let me tell you the benefit of that. First of all, it's fresh. Second of all, you're walking to the store, back and forth, getting those things which people here don't do. Their exercises are poor, their health is poor, and it's evident. We see it all the time.
Mhm.
The foods aren't fresh, they don't taste the same whatsoever, and the impact on your body is tremendous. We see it.
Yep.
Mm.
So, again, when you know better, you want to do better for yourself. When you've identified these things, it makes you not want to be a part of that until things are addressed properly on Yahusha's shoulder. So we just have to recognize that this is still where we are, but we're identifying these things, and certain things just may not be good for us right now. And sometimes we have to say no to certain things. That's cool. It's your choice. That's the beauty. The one great thing about this country is you have a choice. There are some countries where people don't have choices in different things. But with that choice, what are you willing to do? Because if you're lazy, you're not going to take the proper protocol to take care of your health, to do certain things for yourself, to cook for yourself, or to plant certain things. You don't want to be a slave anymore or whatever. That's how, some people may think, and wonder why this generation knows nothing about cooking or planting or growing vegetables and fruits, or probably never even picked a fruit or vegetable or been on a farm, any of those things. That's a problem.
It is.
All right, I'm sorry, I had to go down that path, but so my second question is, so what are some of the scriptures that come to your mind regarding, or that resonates with you at this time when you're seeing and dealing with some of these things? Like what Latricia was saying, what she went through from a medical position, or other things in your personal life, or what you're seeing in the world. What are some scriptures that come to mind, if any? And tell us.
I get plenty. I get Daniel, when the book is closed. I get Matthew, wait up what rumor that was. I just now they are talking about, I get. With the band, I get the band man, with the band, break down the band and Bella shed. And he say, you fool, you Bella shed and hosting all this other thing, and I'm going to take your soul today.
Hmm. Okay.
A scripture that comes to mind for me would be when he be talking about take heed that you don't allow a man to deceive you. And then I'm paraphrasing this scripture, but it talks about how a man can like gain the whole world but lose his soul. Can somebody help me?
Exactly.
What scripture is that? But those are the scriptures that come to my mind.
Right. Okay. Good.
Well, there are many aspects of Matthew 24 that's being fulfilled, whether the masses recognize it or not. Because we can see that there's a lot of confusion, and they're still putting hope in man. You know what I'm saying? So even with this election situation that we see that's going on, how even the media is playing a role as the beast
Mm.
on on the psyches of the people. Okay, this is like a desperate attempt to keep them still on that broad and wide gate that leads to destruction of believing in man, not realizing that all of this is being dismantled right before their very eyes. What are other aspects? We're seeing people that are offended because of the truth still being manifested out there. People are being offended. Each time I speak to someone about the said scriptures of what the Creator has laid out, people are offended. We see iniquity that's abounding with many. And that love, the so-called love that people have, it's waxing colder and colder out here. Which is why the Messiah said, "He that endures until the end, the same shall be saved." So I'm seeing a mass amount of information that the Messiah laid out from Matthew 24, Revelation 18, Joel chapter 2, the great and terrible day being manifested right before our very eyes.
So tell us of these manifestations that you see that align with that.
Okay. Well, I see people are beginning to awaken. They're understanding that they've been lied to. Now that people are coming out of, you got some people that have chosen to come out of the midst of the confusion. I was just looking at some of this in Joel earlier. Let me see where I was. Hold on. Oh yeah, a day of darkness and a day of gloominess, a day of clouds and thickness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. People are not even understanding as Satan's dominion is coming down, as righteousness and the Mashiach's rulership is going up. That's what I'm seeing, because people are losing faith in these said religious leaders and governmental leaders that represent the beast. You got people that are undecisive about what they should vote at this said point in time. Where you see people from the Trump persuasion and the Kamala Harris persuasion that are in a desperate attempt to get these people still under the said marketing or branding that they have utilized for thousands of years of deceiving many. You know what I'm saying? And what does Revelation 13 was saying about buying and selling?
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing them selling a false narrative or false information that people are awakening and they're not buying it. You know what I mean? Some people have awakened and they're not buying it. But those that are still operating by the broad and wide gate, they're still buying into the falsehoods. So those are just some of the things I wanted to highlight.
All right. Anyone else?
The rich young ruler, um, they don't want to give up their riches. And so they're walking away sad and confused because they feel that they are entitled to all of the riches that they have, and they don't want to get rid of it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have to choose.
Okay.
Well, they probably already done chose what they were going to do.
All right. Anyone else? So So how has your spirit been in the last couple of weeks? What have you been feeling in your spirit? And why do you believe that, whatever you're feeling, why do you believe that to be the case?
Can you repeat the question? My apologies.
One, in the last couple of weeks, what have you been understanding and feeling within your spirit or knowing within your spirit? And why do you believe that's the case? Whatever your understanding of what's taking place in your spirit, why do you believe that that is accurate or the case of the matter?
Okay. I can see I know I need to display more of the fruits of the spirit. So I see where I'm being tested, even when it comes to Satan's world or when it comes to my natural family. I am starting to understand that the Most High is going. I mean, he is like looking at the situation that is going on between me and my sisters, and he want to see how I'm going to maneuver and respond.
Okay.
As a test.
All right. Anything else?
I can't think of anything right now.
All right. Anyone else?
Say that question again, Zeke.
In the past couple of weeks, what have you been seeing and identifying in your spirit, and why do you believe it to be the case? Whatever you've identified and understood in your spirit in the last couple of weeks, regardless of what it is, why do you believe that that's what's taking place?
I can say that I'm seeing a tearing away or a separation from top to bottom in my life. He's getting rid of some of those those who are not in the same wavelength or path that I'm going on. He's tearing them away, be it through an understanding of we're going in two different directions, through arguments or whatever. He's tearing them away from me to get me to depend more and more on him. And that's one of the situations that happened just yesterday in terms of someone who I thought was on the same team or someone who I thought I have shown certain things to get them elevated is the main one that been sowing seeds of this sowing bad seeds to tear up the brotherhood. And so now I have to deal with that person in a way that I should have dealt with him in the first place. But understanding that he is one of the ones that does not believe in what I believe in and condemns what I believe to try to get me to come to believe what he believes. So I'm glad that the tearing of the veil from top to bottom happened yesterday, because it showed me just what he said in his word, that he'll tear it from top to bottom so that it'll divide family members, friends, children, grandparents, all those things, so to get us to be with him and to understand that our mission for him has nothing to do with who they are, but has everything to deal with getting us closer to him. So that's what I can say in this math. I think it's Matthew 27:51, but that's what I'm seeing this week in my life.
Okay, good. Good. Anyone else?
I would like to say this. Again, in my spirit, here is not it. And here could never be it.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I say here is not it, and here could never be it. Because I perfect example of my work. Power, rulership, and money. At the end, everybody's talking up to the supervisors and them gain them this, gaining them, treating them good, just to do or get work. And just to get work on a Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. I not suck I just saying right? I using we terms of course, yeah. I not sucky ducky, I not sticking up to the boss and gaining him this and treating him this and this kind of way. At the end of the day, and then the kind of people who the supervisor and them know give work like Saturday and Sunday, all of the premium times at the end of the day, and that's why I like from when I used to from my learning, keeping Sabbath, I never used to work on I never used to work on a Saturday. Never. Never ever ever. I always used to keep Saturday for myself and Father. Yeah. And they really make me get to see, although I'm working some Saturdays, other things, although I work on some Saturdays, whatever, and I'm getting to see, here is not it. Yeah. Really and truly, and we're not on your Yahushua shoulder, neither Father shoulder. And I know here is not it. Yeah. That's what I mean.
Okay. Good. Anyone else?
I say that well, I'm here and I guess this is my second week here. So uh in late July I used to be on the prayer call Monday through Friday at like 6:30 in the morning. And it was because it was part of me doing I had a when I separated from my husband, I had went through a lot of different things, and I had really was just trying to like connect back with God, with Yahuah. And on that journey, along that long little too much journey in July, I started to just say, like, I felt like when I was going to church, I wasn't really, like, I used to be like, well, let me go to Bible study, because in Bible study, we can dig into the word, I can ask questions, I can get understanding, stuff like that. But what I noticed at my church was that it wasn't a time of study, and it was like mini preachings, and I didn't like that. And I saw and one time somebody asked a question, wanted to ask a question, they wouldn't allow that person to ask a question. So that really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm actually a preacher's kid, and I was observing my own father with his Bible study, and I asked him, why does it seem like you preaching and not teaching on during Bible study? And he was telling me that sometimes it's a time for teaching, and sometimes it's just a time to bring the word. And I said, well, wouldn't you think that would be good enough for Sunday, and then that people can really get into the meat of church, get into the meat of the word on Bible study? So from there, it just triggered like something in me. I mean, I also met a guy, and he started asking me questions. And you know what happened? I couldn't answer those questions. And when I couldn't answer those questions, it just started to just be like a domino effect between the prayer line, church, his questions, and what I didn't know and what I was seeking. And I really have had just really wanted to know why at church, you know, even though they switched from saying Easter to Resurrection Sunday, why didn't we just adhere to like Muslims? They do same things every time of the year. I don't know exactly what it is, but they do these things. Right. And then Jews, they do these things every time of the year. And I'm like, but I felt like it was rooted in like things that they've been doing the whole time. And in Christianity, I feel like things wavered, and from the beginning to what is now. And it was a lot of wavering, and it was just a lot of gaps. And I'm not saying that anything is right, wrong, or indifferent, but what I'm saying is it didn't bring clarity to me. Right. So once I started digging and started pulling away, then here I am. And it's just been really refreshing for me to be able to just feel like the things that I did in prayer, the calling out that I was asking in prayer, especially over these last 3 months, it's just starting to to it's just starting to be here. You know, it's starting to make it here to me where I can see the things that I prayed for, you know, coming before me. So hopefully that wasn't too long or too deep, but that's pretty much what I can see in my
Yeah, no, that's good. That's
good.
yeah, that's powerful and one, honest and powerful. I think we should all be able to identify those types of areas in our life. Even what Bobby was saying as well, not to, you know, make light of his either, because it's beautiful to be able to identify these areas of our life when we are looking for so much more, and what is actually causing us to not get to what we're actually looking for. The spirit that's within us, that's, just searching for who our creator is, and answering, wanting truth and answers to these questions, and why you're not able to get them is a big part of what drives us away from, the churches, or like we were talking about, the medical field or pharmaceutical company or people, relationships. All of those things wind up coming into our lives, and we can identify that, for many of us, and it's a process, but there's a certain peace that comes over us when we start to see and recognize who we are, and what the Most High has been telling us about ourselves, and what he's been telling us about the world that we have been living in, and what the impacts of those things are. So no, that's a beautiful thing, to be able to even have that journey to understand those things about yourself, and understanding them about others. While they may not understand, you do. And that's what it's all about, for your salvation. So no, that's good. Anyone else? All right. So what are some of the things that you guys are doing differently now at this time in your life that you may not have done before, relevant to the instructions of Yahuah and Yahusha?
Oh, can I take this one again?
Sure, go ahead.
What I am doing is, if it's gonna disrupt my peace or take me out of the favor of the Most High, I'm just gonna bridle my tongue.
Okay. All right. Good. Anyone else?
Say I seeking more, real. I seeking and striving more than before. Yeah. I seeking and striving more. And I want to get understanding, I want to get knowledge. And doing plenty researches and these sort of thing, yeah. That's what I would say I doing more. Yeah. And trying to spread the word, the true word and the correct word. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like the Most High has been increasing in you more lately?
Yeah. I would say yeah. Because I would say that things I used to do, I really actually do places I used to go, I really don't go. And things I used to do before, I don't do. And the place I used to go, I totally not do going through that. Yeah. And then too, and I always tell you, I always say it, since I start searching and seeking, I start seeing it different. Especially when I meet a boy, well, I totally start to see it different. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, he's allowing me to knock the dust off my feet and keep going now, and not get so involved in emotions, but to do what I'm supposed to do. And if they accept it or not, it's on them. That's been part of this whole week for me. It's just understanding that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
especially with parents and teachers and even family.
Right. Okay. Good. Anyone else? So, what ways do you believe we can reach more people or spiritual beings regarding the truth of Yahuwah's righteousness in spirit and in truth?
Walking it out, living it daily.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mm. You know, the masses of today are online, and I took something that, I hope you all are familiar with Charleston White by now. Um, Charleston White is this brother that he he really puts his foot in the tank on the derogatory mindset and nature of the House of Judah. And he said something the other day that it resonated with me. He said, the majority, he said, I'm not worried about none of these people that are seeking to do something to me. He said, because by the time you see me in real life, what's happening in your real life has beat you up. You might have issues at home with your baby mama or etc. He was just going through different scenarios that people will have to endure in their own natural lives, to the point where what he's saying about people as a collective online, they're not going to have that passion to, beat him up. And with that said question, he says, I'm thinking about that because he said, the only reason why y'all have a problem with what I'm saying is because y'all are online. He says, all of the people that are online have a problem with what I'm saying is mostly because you're online and my words are hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to think about that. Um, Social media has a huge influence over people today. And that's pretty much where everyone is. To be honest with you, like when I was a kid, everybody was outside. It's like even when I get off of work now and I'm, either riding my bike or whatever, I don't see people in the community like I used to. So how we craft our messages or conversations um as a way of penetrating people's hearts and minds, whether on social media or by word of mouth, when I do see people outdoors, it's usually at some sort of gathering, whether it's at a block party or something like that. That's the only time when I will really see um, groups of people. So that would be the perfect time to have, conversation, word of mouth to them to try to get them to see and understand differently. But for the most part, I be posting all over social media trying to help awaken some of these people that have gone down that broad and wide gate that leads to destruction. Um, it's just crazy how, I mean, the community is pretty much, if 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, back in the days, everyone was outside. I only see a few kids today that are outside. I don't see a lot of people as I used to. So it's crazy how social media has had a huge influence over that. So whatever statements that I put out there, I try to put out information where it cuts to the core of a person to try to show them exactly what the Creator is saying by His word in spirit and in truth to get them to think versus to follow what they have been traditionally taught. And put it in some of these young people that I do come across, because they're quicker to give you their attention and listen to what you have to say than some of these adults do.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's good. So yeah, there's a definite advantage. We always hear the negative side of social media, but there's a definite positive side to it. One, we can reach, pretty much the world through media, through social media and various platforms. It has its pros and cons like many other things. It has its righteousness and it has its unrighteousness on those platforms, like everything else in the world. But it is an opportunity for people to utilize to reach other people that you may not have necessarily reached before. And when you think about it, and I've said this before, in regards to the very book that we read that comes from our Creator, you haven't seen them before. You haven't laid physical eyes on them before, but you know of their existence by that in their spirit and that which they wrote in the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about necessarily being, as someone used to say, eyeball to eyeball, or immediately in someone's presence, to make a difference, to bring forth the righteousness in spirit and in truth of who our Creator is and how He operates. So that's the importance. Sometimes, again, we look to save our families and save our friends, and more people are speaking about this now, and I'm glad to see and hear it, is that they realize that I'm not the one to do it. I can't. The main ones that I'm in the house with or so-called friends with are not the ones for me to save. They don't see me in that light, so, but I know that I have a message to bring to other people in the world, and other people do see, and those, and your message resonates with them. It's the same thing that happened in the first Advent and prior to that. When we talk about Jeremiah, Isaiah, when we talk about Ezekiel, they went through the same thing. There was no social media, but what they did was right according to the spirit of righteousness. They wrote those things. Here we are thousands of years later, and guess what? I see you, Jeremiah. I see you, Isaiah. I see you, Ezekiel. I see you, Abraham. You know what I'm saying? I see you, David. We are so busy worried about someone and our physical presence accepting us, and therein lies the problem. This world won't accept you. His righteousness will. And there's a difference from His righteousness and the ways of this world. We all have been looking for a level of acceptance. I don't care what group or label or category you have been put in. Everybody wants to be loved, but everybody can't identify with what love is. The scriptures tells us that Yahuah is love. And if you don't know Yahuah, you don't know love. So everywhere where you're looking for it, you're not going to get it unless it is of Yahuah in spirit and in truth.
Still a thing.
And most, whether it's right in our face, again, whether we go out to the store, sometimes the presence of a person and what you say and what you speak resonates with them. Quest was just reminding me earlier this week about a guy that I talked about that was on the airplane with me one time, and he basically followed me because he wanted to know that much more because of all the information that I shared with him online. When he started talking about somehow he brought it up about his religious faith in Christianity. And then he asked me my perspective. Well, what did he ask me that for? Because then I let him know. And when I let him know, he had never heard such a thing, but he was so intrigued by those things that he wanted to know more. And I know I could see it in his face that it triggered something in him that said to him, that makes so much sense, but yet I need to digest this. I could see it in his face. I saw it in his eyes. And as we got off the plane, I thought the conversation was over. I was going to my next gate to catch my other flight. He was going his way, but then he followed. He caught up to me and started having more conversation. I'll never see this man again, probably in my life. But I know that sometimes you only have a small window of opportunity to drop a seed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to that seed, it's up to that person for that seed to bring forth the harvesting that it needs to happen for him and for others. So again, a lot of times we look for, as attention seekers, that's what they look for. So Satan's world is a lot about attention seekers. Those that are in a lot of these churches or whatever, they love the praise of men. They love their congregations and building their congregations to love them, to worship them. And it's usually not about the Most High at all. Unfortunately, it may be a small little bit of meat here, or a small little bit of milk there to talk about the Most High, but that's not what's really taking place in a lot of these services. And it has a lot of times has nothing to do with their salvation. So they can't learn the crux of what they need to know about who they are. The topics that we've talked about, the topics that are on the YouTube channel, none of those things that I ever learned in the Christian church whatsoever. And I never would. It had to be me coming out of that in order for me to understand those things, just like for you guys. So that's how we can identify, one, who our creator is and how he operates in us, and two, knowing that we don't need to be, typically his people are not attention seekers. And again, we know this even from a word perspective of those that wrote the words, the Dead Sea Scrolls and all those things. These prophets had these things in them. It was bottled up in them. Do you think that their family members, they thought that they were crazy? Just like they thought Yahusha was crazy in his first advent. Because it's so different than what they're being taught by the traditions of men. So, so we have to stick to that which we know the world will look at us, in a crazy manner, not being the attention seekers, but feeling at peace for knowing this truth within ourselves. It's a peace that surpasses all understanding of men. That's who our creator is. Most people don't have that peace. Does that make sense?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, regarding that question, things that we can do to reach more people. When we're given an opportunity, like when that guy asked me on the plane, he mentioned certain things about Christianity, about his faith, and he asked me, and that was my window of opportunity. I didn't have anything to lose. You don't owe me nothing. I don't owe you anything. But it was my window of opportunity to let him know where I come from and what I believe and why I believe what I believe. And it made me raise certain questions to him that he could not answer, that he did not know. But yet he was following this Christian faith. That's what intrigued him. Just like what Charity was saying. That's where we've been. That's where I was. There were so many things that I was facing that I could not answer. There were so many questions that I had that nobody could answer for me. That's a problem. And when we recognize that problem, there's something we have to do about that. We have to find those answers. So take advantage of those windows of opportunity, whether it's on social media, in person, whatever the case may be. When you can let your light shine before all men, do so. That's my point. All right. So what are some of the things that you guys feel like you are still unlearning, if anything, of the ways of the world? And what are you doing to address that matter?
Well, I'm unlearning or trying to unlearn everything as far as what the Hebrew Israelites were saying, the scriptures were saying. I'm trying to unlearn everything what the so-called Christian church was saying, and truly understand what the Most High is saying in his spiritual language.
So let me ask you something there regarding that. So when the Hebrew Israelites were, what specific things stand out in your mind that they were teaching you that you questioned or that you just did not believe in your spirit?
The marriage aspect, when they were saying that once you have sex, so the act or the action of the sex or whatever, that is the marriage.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That didn't make any sense. The immersions, as far as concerning the baptisms, that didn't make any sense. The dietary laws.
From a carnal perspective.
Yeah.
How
The
about
rape. The rape. Them sitting there saying rape is permitted in the kingdom. I definitely don't stand with that.
So how did that make you feel? I know that you've talked about this before, but I want you to bring it out again. When you heard that, and I know it hits close, for anyone, but when you heard that was the way that they felt and taught that rape was permissible in the kingdom, and what they believed that they could just rape anybody. What went through your head, through your spirit, and how quickly, if it was quick, did you get out of that? Did you get away from it?
Well, when that was their viewpoint, my thought process was, if that's the most high, I don't want to be serving a God that is allowing rape to be in the kingdom. That's for one. But two, I felt like it was ego. So also, when it came to the Hebrew Israelites, they were firm believers that the woman can't bring forth the word. Is all put on the man. So that burnt my spirit up, because I'm like, y'all ain't teaching me anything. So if it's just supposed to be the man, the physical man bringing something, then bring something and get me to understand it. And they won't do it.
Okay.
It just didn't sit right in my spirit when they saying, okay, so you saying the Most High can only use a physical man, but he ain't reaching out to me at all.
Right.
So I was kind of feeling like I'm going to be left behind. So yeah.
Okay.
They were the ones that told you to immerse yourself, right?
Yes, and living by your order.
Okay. How about the Christian church? What took place there that really, ruffled your feathers?
Well, ruffle my feathers as far as the Christian church. I always thought the word was meant to be like for a spiritual hospital. So when I would go to a church building, I literally thought that you're supposed to lay all your cares, your troubles, to the Most High, and we actually are supposed to be that support system. I mean, that's what I looked to the church building and the congregation for. I didn't get that whatsoever. What I got was backbiting. What I got was jealousy. What I got was stuff that didn't have nothing to do with the Most High's character. Like they're critiquing my physical when they shouldn't even be paying attention to my physical. They need to be paying attention to my spirit.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that you did learn from them that, if any, that you felt like you had to unlearn?
Being quick to judge when I'm not understanding the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have to unlearn that.
Okay. How about from the Hebrew Israelites? Were there things that you were taught that you felt like you needed to unlearn or unpractice, not practice anymore?
I mean, what I got from the Hebrew Israelites, they was teaching that vengeance was theirs. So I definitely have to unlearn that. As far as knowing and understanding, just because somebody do something to me, that don't mean I have to retaliate.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's right.
Okay, that's good. All right. Anyone else regarding that? Different things that you felt like you may have to unlearn of the ways of the world, or you feel like the world has taught you through the traditions of men, religions, community, family, that it and now understand is something different. What are some of the things that you're feeling like you still have to unlearn, or no longer practice, if that's the case?
I think I got one. I'm still learning that just because I discipline someone doesn't mean I don't care about them.
Mm-hmm.
Or just because I have to correct somebody doesn't mean I don't love them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's still taking some time, but I'm getting there. Sometimes I feel bad when I have to get on someone for something that they did or didn't do. And so
Mm-hmm.
I try to process it so that I don't go too overboard with feeling sad, because our Creator, He chastises us as well. So that's something that I'm learning to embrace a little bit more and not feel bad about.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the beginning, I used to feel bad when people say, I'm being mean.
Mm-hmm. What did you ask me yesterday, Latricia?
I don't remember verbatim the exact words. Please enlighten me.
Exactly. People, when there's righteousness involved, a lot of times people think you're being mean. That's just the opposite of the ways of this world. When the Most High is present is when they think something is wrong. That's a problem. They rather serve Satan and lies and the appearance of something that's good than that which is good.
Right.
And they don't want to be corrected either.
Right. So a big part of that, and the reason why I said that about Latricia, because she just asked me again yesterday about, do people think that I'm mean? And I told her, yes, some people do think that I'm mean, but they know that I'm not. What they know and what they say are for two different things. So, when they say, oh, well, well, that's mean. And there are times when I had to correct that. No, that's not mean. Mean means my intention is something bad or negative, and that is not my intention. So let's, first address that. Mean is very intentional. Something very negative and something that's very intentional. So when I say something, even out of correction or addressing something or chastisement or admonishment, it's not being mean.
It's from a place of love.
Exactly. That's what it's a place of love that they're not accustomed to, and
Right.
so for them, it's just the opposite. Because what they are accustomed to are the lies. So all the sneakiness, all of the talking behind people's back, but in your face they act like they love you. That's what most people are accustomed to. When you
Exactly.
take certain actions and appear that you love them, that's what they want to feel from their emotion. But that's not what love is. They can have you look behind the scenes. They can have you looking like the biggest dummy because they're talking about you and telling the truth behind your back, but not to your face. What kind of friend is that? And that's, and I was saying this to Latricia yesterday as well. I don't need friends like that.
Right.
I don't need people in my life like that. I'd
That's
rather
why my
someone.
circle is small.
Right, mine is almost non-existent. I mean, because of that fact, I'd rather either be by myself or be in a small circle of people. And I was never about large groups and crowds anyway.
Right.
So for me, it's more about feeling comfortable in that which I can identify and recognize as something that's going to be beneficial to me as a person. And it's not. I don't find a benefit of you lying and talking behind my back or causing problems. I don't find that beneficial at all.
Exactly.
I don't have anything to,
That's what
I
our
don't
transgressions
need to
do.
look a certain way to anybody. I don't care how, a lot of people are about that appearance. I don't give a flip. I really don't.
Exactly.
And the way that this world operates is just like that, especially in the churches. And me coming out of those churches and being in the forefront, I never wanted to, be sitting up at an instrument in the front of the church and all of that. People think that that's something. I didn't like that. Some people do. Some people like being in the pulpit and all of that and being, getting all of this attention. I'm not an attention seeker that way. Even when I had that type of position, I didn't like, that as, I didn't think of it that way, that I want your attention. I want the attention and focus on me. But I know a lot of musicians, that's exactly what they want. That's what they live for. And that's what the church uses them to be the best music. They play those things against one another. And that's why I have a problem with, choir competitions and all of that crap. That's crazy. Why are choirs competing? That doesn't make sense. Why are musicians competing? Why do ministers feel like they have to compete with another minister if you're of the same gospel? That makes no sense. Why aren't we all doing the one thing that we are supposed to be doing in spirit and in truth and loving one another and coming together? Why are we so divisive and not together?
So when it comes to the singing and the dancing, I just love to do it. Like what would bother me when they would ask me to do it, they would literally try to like direct me on what note to hit. I was like, this ain't for you. The Most High didn't give this gift to you. So you can't tell me how to maneuver or how I'm supposed to sit there and sing this song or dance to this song. Like, let me do it organically and naturally and let the music just move me. It's the joy for me.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
Did the Hebrew Israelites ever try to stop you from doing that?
They wanted to make money off of it, and I refused to do it.
Yeah, well, one of the things, and I pointed this out before, so a lot of churches, especially now, in the Christian faith and churches, are more about the theatrics of, especially with the music, and we have good music, but Black folk, the one thing we can do is sing, play, and, we have a lot of talent. Everybody knows that, you know what I'm saying? And the church itself, or the Christian church itself, exploits that talent with musicians or with people that's going to bring other people in. What brings people into a Black church? Music.
And the women bring the brothers.
I'm gonna let that go.
I'm just keeping it 100.
I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it
Well,
go.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see it necessarily that,
Most of the ones up here, that's exactly what I see.
I think, no, I think the brothers bring the women. Women go
Yes.
looking for the brothers in the church.
Yes. Yes.
That's what I
I
see.
usually see Donnie sending his women out here.
They be siding and bopping. That's what
And
they be doing. Siding and
we're
bopping.
the main ones that are out here handing out the pamphlets and stuff to try to get the brothers to
All
come
right,
to
yeah.
church.
Yeah, because there are more women than there are men, first of all, in the population, and then, of course, in the population of the church. But typically, more women are in the church. Traditionally, you have more women that have been, especially in the Christian churches, there are more women in the churches. And a lot of times, those women are looking for a man, a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care if that man is somebody else.
Oh, yeah,
They
exactly.
do not care.
Right, exactly.
But their goal be that pastor.
Right. So their intentions typically aren't pure, as they say that they are. People have their reasons for doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And typically it's opposite of even that which they say. I want me, they'll say, I want a godly man. No, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't be in there, first of all.
Listen, it is women praying that, okay, so it could be a couple that's already married, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would literally hear women that ain't married. They would say things like, "Yeah, I prayed to the Most High about them getting divorced so He can leave her for me." And I'm saying like, well, I don't think that's how the Most High works. Like, well, what are we doing here?
What kind of statement is that?
Well, they make statements like that out loud.
Well, see, here's my issue with that. You are delusional.
Okay.
I mean, to think that, first of all, if he leaves her, what makes you think he ain't gonna leave you?
Thanks.
Amen.
What makes you think that he's going to stay with you? What do you really think you have that's going to keep him with you? You're delusional.
Retarded.
Exactly.
There's a lot of delusional people out here. I'm just trying to
exactly. Because there's an act that goes on, the appearance of being this woman, like they would say in the Christian church, a virtuous woman. You don't know what a virtuous woman is, first of all.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then you want to present yourself as being something that you really are not, for appearance sake. That's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. This is what goes on in a lot of these institutions, around the world all the time. And it's not new. It's always been there. So I mean, there's a lot we can dive in on that, but it is what it is. Yeah.
I hear you. Coming up with a sermon already.
Huh?
Coming up with a sermon already.
You are crazy. They don't want me. I wish somebody would invite me to come speak at your church, because I sure would. I would drag Charleston White up in there with me. Y'all will be hearing all kinds of stuff you ain't never heard before, especially in your little church building.
Exactly.
I definitely had to pop up for that one.
Oh yeah, I'm over it. Yeah, I mean now, nobody at this point would want me to come speak at their church. When I was in those, Christian churches, they would want me then, and I didn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't want me now, because I have them running up out of there.
They would call me Satan's spawn.
But so when we feel that comfortable and confident in that which we know is a good thing. That goes back to the earlier statement. I wasn't, even in the Christian church, one, I wasn't confident, and I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't confident. I wasn't, a lot of things, to be honest. And that was decades in the Christian church.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's only been after coming out that I can learn all of these truths and understand why I felt and understood things the way that I did, or why I even questioned some of the things that I was questioning. And it makes the world of difference. So, yeah. So another question I have for you guys is, if, from your understanding, how should we be giving ourselves to Yahuah and Yahusha?
I think we
I
should
think
be giving him. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I think we have a lesson out there that says it all.
We supposed to be giving our all. I mean, for me, I supposed to literally be giving my all to the body, because I know if I lack, then I might cause somebody else to stumble, which I don't want to do. So I'm always making sure that I am holding the man or the woman in the mirror accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't cause anyone that comes in behind me or whatever to stumble.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyone else?
No, I was gonna say something similar to that point as well, because that's the standard that the Creator has laid out there. That it's either all of your heart, your soul, your mind. You know what I'm saying? That's the source that's needed
Mm-hmm.
to acquire the understanding of the Creator. If he
Mm-hmm.
sees that we are straddling the fence, it's like, all right, I guess that person need their ass whooped a little more. So, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, in order for them to get the point that I'm saying through my word. You know what I mean? I too second that. I don't want to lead nobody down the wrong path as it relates to how we should be acquiring the said understanding of our Creator. And I know that's not easy, but you got to put in the effort. It's like what Zeke always says in terms of the outcomes. You know what I mean? If you don't get outcomes, it's because you spent little or no time with him. So those are things that I'm still trying to unlearn to learn more of my Creator.
Okay. All right. Cool. Anyone else? All right. So, and this is really the final question regarding this, is if people or the world, I want you to think about this. If the world treated you the way that you treat Yahuah and Yahusha, how would you feel?
Damn. Whew.
And I mean, I could be like completely honest.
Please do. That's what, yeah.
Exactly.
I would feel like shit.
Okay. Why?
I would feel like I'm not even hitting on that. I mean, to the point of like the Most High, he sits there, he lays out a blueprint, and it's just one of them things where for me, I'm either gonna do it or I'm not. I'm either gonna abide by his rules and his blueprint or I'm not.
So are you saying that you treat Yahuah and Yahusha that way?
No, what I'm saying is I treat them with, okay, well, I tell you what, ask the question again.
All right. So if people or the world treated you the way that you treat Yahuah and Yahusha, how would you feel?
Oh, I would feel good. Because I mean, I'm literally giving y'all all I got. I mean, I'm literally trying to lead by example. I put y'all literally before my biological family. I literally believe that blood don't make you family. I really do believe that based on what I have came across when I've met y'all. So if the world treated me like I am treating Yahuah and Yahusha, I would feel great.
Okay. Anyone else?
Say the question again, one more time.
If the world treated you the way that you treat Yahuah and Yahusha, how would you feel?
I know at times for myself, I don't feel good at all. Because I feel like I could be giving the Most High a lot more of my time. It's not going to feel good whatsoever.
So do you see the manifestation of that in your life now? Is that what you're feeling?
Sometimes I do, yes. At times I do.
All right. Anyone else?
I feel like that's how they treat me now.
What's how they treat you? The way you treat Yahuah and Yahusha?
Say the question again, Zeke, for clarity.
If the world, whether it's your family, your job, your friends, the community, if they treated you the way that you treat Yahuah and Yahusha, how would you feel?
It's not a good feeling at all. Not at all.
Why is that?
Because in with what reading Hosea chapter 2, that spoke so much volume to me as how Yahuah loves us and wants us to come back to him, and how he loves us unconditionally, but we put conditions on everything else, on him, on people, on everything, when it should not be like that.
So you say that's how you treat other people with those conditions?
Well, no, I have at one point in one time, but I don't anymore.
Okay.
I just let them be who they're going to be.
So the question is more for now in your current state.
Yeah.
If the world treated you the way that you now treat Yahuah and Yahusha, how would you feel?
Again, I wouldn't, that's not a good feeling.
Okay.
So that's a very interesting question that you're asking. And shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Sorry I'm coming so late. It's an interesting question that you posed because I am literally in the middle of that situation right now. And when you ask that question, like Yahuah dropped it in my spirit that like now you understand how I feel.
Exactly.
I just finished wrapping up because it's not wrapped up, but I just finished having to deal with a situation that has been going on since May. And I keep telling the individuals that were involved. Before this happened, before it started, I said, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to play out if this is the way that this is done. This isn't the way that it's done. We shouldn't do it. And my saying was dismissed, and individuals decided that they were going to take actions in their own hands and act in what they thought was the best decision for them. And here it is, months later, we're seeing the manifestation of everything that I said was going to happen.
Exactly.
And in it, I'm still saying, if you had just listened back then we wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be having to fix this right here. And as it was going on, I kept saying, I don't like being put in a position where I have to fix the repercussions. I have to suffer the repercussions of decisions that did not involve me or did not take into consideration and heed the warning and the advice that I gave.
Exactly.
And today, I just had to like tell my son when he wanted to talk about something, I had to say, I'm not in the mood to talk about it because of this situation. It puts me in a position where I now have to be disrespected by somebody. And there's nothing that I can do about it because I have to clean up this situation. And so, and it's like, Yahuah showed me that's what we do.
Exactly.
He gives us a direction and a plan, and he shows us how it's going to work out. He might not show you everything in the middle, but he shows you how it's going to work out. But because we don't see that, or we don't think, or we feel like, well, we need to help it to get to this point, or that's not how we want it to turn out, then we go someplace else and take somebody else's advice, and then we find ourselves in a mess. And then we come back to Yahuah and we want him to fix it.
All right.
And in the process of him fixing it, then our enemies come and they point at us, they laugh at us, and they mock Yahuah.
Exactly.
And there's nothing that he can do about it because I love you so much. I'm going to cover you, and I'm going to allow them to do this to me so that I can get you out of the situation you created because you didn't heed my word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That sounds like Job.
Well, I'm glad you
too.
understood my question because I knew that other people were probably struggling with that. But you definitely understood the question, and your response is indicative of that. You're absolutely right. That's the way that we answer that question tells a lot about who we are in him or who we are not in him. And that's the struggle sometimes that we have. We have to recognize, he tells us what his character traits are. And, if you ask a Christian person or someone of a different faith about their character traits that don't align with the fruits of his spirit and all these things that we know from the scriptural perspective, how can you say you are of this spirit of the Messiah of this Bible or these scriptures? It doesn't add up. It makes no sense. You're not going through anything. You don't take on the burden. He said to cast your burdens upon me, and when they do, the burden is cast upon us. Just like what Zazma was saying, those are the burdens of this world, of those of times past. We were just talking about, those of Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel and those that came before us. Nobody was, like I said, nobody wanted to hear them. So when the transgressors came and taught you something different and you wanted to hear that, your ancestors wanted to hear those things, they sent you down this path to now have to undergo all of these things that now you had to undergo because your ancestors and those before us, or we were going to be cursed to the third and fourth generation to pay the debt. And, you know, that is how Yahuah and Yahusha feel. You didn't listen to me. You did not want to listen to me. But I love you so much. I'm giving you this word. I'm giving you a way out. But you got to go through hell to get there. And we don't want to take on the hell of other people. But that's what our Creator took on with us. That is his grace and mercy. And sometimes, you know, those of the Christian faith, you don't hear them saying those things. You don't hear them wanting, you know, asking or inviting themselves to be there for someone in a way that can sometimes cause detriment, sometimes to even you. That puts you out of whether it's money or time or effort, you know, cleaning up their mess and things of that nature. That's what our Creator does. That's what he's done. So if we were doing, you know, to the question, if we treated, if people treated us that way, the way that we treat Yahuah and Yahusha, we should be treating them according to the two greatest commandments. That's the whole thing. If we're treating each other the way that we should be treating each other, that's the kingdom in itself. The kingdom is within us. The problem is that most people don't abide by the two greatest commandments. And they don't treat Yahuah and Yahusha the way that they say that they do, which is why they can't treat, you know, others the way that they want to be treated themselves. Because you already went against the first commandment. And the second one, unto like the first one, you went against it too.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is, just like the scriptures tell us, you know, there's, and you hear me say it, I usually paraphrase it because I say that there's a price or a cost to everything. There's a price to pay for everything. And it's not a financial cost. Sometimes it is, but there's a price to pay for everything. There's a sacrifice to everything. There's a compromise to everything. And those are the behaviors that people don't want to exhibit because they want to make it all about themselves, even in their bad decision making. And there's a price to pay for that.
Can I just chime in once again there?
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
You know, this situation, and this has been a week for me. But when you talk about that sacrifice, what you were just talking about, again, Will was like, gave me the different context of dying to yourself.
Exactly.
You know, last week or the week before, we talked about the recognition of the spirit of others. And again, just in the same situation that I was talking about, you know, I was starting to get vexed and starting to get heated and, you know, annoyed with the situation because, again, you know, you're being very disrespectful to me, and you, because you think you're helping me out, but you're not helping me out. You know, again, you're making a decision because it's in the service of you. It's in your best interest, but you want me to think you're doing it because it helps you. But you're going to disrespect me in the process. And I wanted to be like, I was getting frustrated, like, because I'm like, well, we should be on the same level. And it was something that Yahuah pointed out to me because we were standing in my house and there was a teaching that was on my television. And the individual stepped to the television and was like, it's a bunch of words there because it's some scriptures and it's a bunch of words and it had a bunch of Hebrew words. And it was funny that they stepped up and the one word they picked out was the word Yahuah. And they were kind of mockingly like, what is this word? What does this say? Like, why would they even like, and Yahuah was like, you know, you don't have to worry about this because this isn't mine. I'm showing you he doesn't even know my name. My children will recognize my name. And in that, it was now die to yourself. I'm being disrespected, but my pride and my ego wants to defend myself. You have to constantly die to yourself. And that's how we get to have the compassion and the empathy and the sympathy for what we as man put Yahuah through, is when we learn what it actually means to die to ourselves.
Exactly.
Over and over again. And I don't know about anybody else, but this week, I feel like that's what that's the lesson he's been showing me, the multiple different ways that I have to die to myself in order for his will to be done. And so I was just like, I just wanted to chime in that the sacrifice that we're making is the sacrifice of ourselves. Constantly making the choice to die to ourselves so that he can live and his will can be done.
Exactly. No, and exactly. That's what prompted a lot of things we just went through. And I was saying earlier that I wish you were on here because it was in response to your text earlier this week that I want, you know, we just went through 10 different questions, and a lot of it was, some of it was based on, you know, the response to your question and what many of us have been going through for the last couple of weeks or months. The only thing that I'll add to what you just said as well is that, and I see this with certain people, and I've pointed it out to some of you, is the way that Yahuah addresses it. When we address it the way that Yahuah and Yahusha addresses it, we have to be at peace. But what happens is sometimes we feel like, you know, and you hit on it a little bit with, you know, with your pride and certain things, sometimes we feel like we have to be the fixer, or we have to, sometimes people have to go through it, just like he allowed us to go through what we needed to. He let the world have its way with us. And sometimes we have to let the world have its way with them. And we have to sit on the side and watch them go through hell. And that's the very thing that it's not easy to do. It's like watching your child do something. You told them not to put their hand on the stove, yet what do? They go put their hand on the stove when I told you not to. So you had to be burned. And, you know, unfortunately, that's how the spiritual realm is, and people's spirits, they have to learn a certain way. And we try to circumvent that sometimes by stepping in, only to find out that they still haven't learned. Even when we tried to pick up the pieces, really, they haven't learned. You just stepped in and really prolonged the situation, but sometimes they really just don't learn until they go through it. So watching them, you know, standing back and letting the world have its way is oftentimes the way, or really is the way, to allow them to learn from even their own mistakes. I think about that all of the time when I think about what the Most High has done to us, for us, not to us, but for us to learn. Had we not gone through these things, which is his grace and mercy, where would we be? We would not be with him. We would not recognize him. So sometimes, you know, we have to be mindful enough to do that action that sometimes we don't want to do. Like letting the world have its way with you, because you won't learn any other way. And then when you come back to me, just like we came back to him, we will open our arms and accept them, because now they have learned. Just like we hear the terms hitting rock bottom for a drug addict or something, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. You haven't gotten there and Judah is very treacherous. Judah is very much aligned with that, which is why Judah had to continue to go through all of these things over and over again.
You know, once again, it's very interesting that you make that point, and I wholeheartedly agree. And again, I just have had a number of situations that have been coming up this week, and it's just been crazy how vast they were and how different they were. And at the end of it, when I was like just telling people like, oh, okay, this here one situation, they were like, you know, I would never have imagined that all of this was going on. But just speaking about what you just said, that sometimes we have to learn to step back and let the world have their way with the individual so that they can learn. There are also times when Yahuah will have you to step in when you don't want to step in. And not that he's going to stop the world from having their way with them, but he's going to have you to intercede and to fight on their behalf. And again, I think it even goes back to some of the things that I talked about last week, that is going to be your testimony, that sometimes is a matter of life and death. And you have to be able to, in that situation, know when it's Yahuah telling you, I want you to get in there and fight, when the world's saying step back because they're trying to have their way. And Yahuah saying not with this one. And I think that, you know, that's just another thing, that when we come into the truth and when we come into the light and we come into the end, being able to have that discernment. I think that when we talk about being able to differentiate the voice of Yahuah from the voice of the world, or the voice of Hasatan, or even the voice of yourself, that is one of the reasons why it is very critical, because you could be in there and you can be standing and you can be in the fight, and Yahuah is telling you to stop fighting, and you, like you said, you're doing more harm than good. And there could be other times when you got the world telling you step back, you know, they got to learn the hard way and all of this. And Yahuah is saying, no, that's not this situation. Get in there and fight. I need you to stand against this enemy on their behalf, because they don't know how, but you'll give them the strength to be able to do it. And at the end, you know, I don't know if it's been a test, but it's just been a couple of little things where he'll show up in the end in the way that you never expected. But it is important when you're in those situations, because again, sometimes that's the test of dying to yourself. Or you gonna get in there and fight when you don't feel like that person or this situation deserves your fight. I don't think you deserve it, but I gotta die to myself, because it's not my will. It's the will of Yahuah that needs to be done. So I gotta roll my hands up, and we gotta tussle this out. But then also in that situation, well, if you want me to fight, I want to fight the way I want to fight. You know, like I can have this over real quick, and it's like, no, you gonna fight the way that I want. So now I have to learn to be patient and long suffering. I don't know when this battle gonna be over, but I know it's gonna be over. And I know at the end of the battle, I'll have the victory. I don't know how he's going to do it. But he telling me to just put my dukes up and swing. So let me put them up and swing. You know, I was like, well, you know, let me get a bow and arrow, and, you know, I can shoot this out and it'll be over much quicker. You know, but again, tests are coming in a number of different ways. And they're coming so quick, and it feels like, I think that's why it feels so overwhelming, because they're coming so quickly. You can't even get out of one before another one is coming.
Exactly.
But I think it's also that to cause the confusion, because you're telling me to stand in this one, fight in this one, and I have to keep it all straight and not give up, not get weary in the
Right.
battle.
Exactly. No, yeah,